and they started to project group gay porn for at least 20 minutes. And the very last scene had some dirt on it. Well, I hope it was dirt. So after 20 minutes of that, 10-15% of the audience left.
These are the common questions that I receive as an opera director, and with this video I'll try my best to answer them. My name is Taro, and originally I was aiming to become an opera singer, and when I was about to sing an important role for a university production, I was very excited to invite my friends to see me perform. But it turned out that they didn't understand the modern directing, and a lot of what they saw was just cringe. So they left during the break, and this happened to me twice in two different productions. I was quite irritated, and I asked myself, what is the point in singing for the audience when even my best friends are leaving? But then my interest in modern directing grew, and I thought, why do directors do that? There must be something they think is good about what they do. And why is this something they believe in not always resonating with the audience? This curiosity and a few other reasons made me change my course, and I recently graduated from opera directing and have since assisted renowned directors. For example, the Vienna State Opera, Theater an der Wien, at the Bregenzer Festspiele, the Nikigai Opera in Tokyo, and I learned from them the essence of modern directing. But then, as I uploaded some of my directed operas on YouTube, I received as comments, which was quite interesting, "This is horrible, stop the modern directing," and I thought, this is the most ironic thing that ever occurred to me. So what happened? What happened? But first, what is modern directing? Most commonly, the expression for modern directing refers to the setting of the stage. Zum Beispiel, you buy tickets for an opera called Le Nozze di Figaro by Mozart, and instead of this naturalistic 18th century setting, you have an empty grey stage or a huge staircase on which singers wearing Nike shoes and modern t-shirts walk up and down and sing. And the first time opera goers are like, is this Figaro? I don't know, maybe we bought the wrong tickets. But there are also other Figaro productions that place in a psychiatry or have a huge white box in the middle which sometimes glows, and it ends with it getting a splash of red paint, and you're like, how did this become a thing? Let me illustrate by using Die Fledermaus, which I directed and which received the comments for horrible, arbitrary modern directing. There are two main factors to consider. One is lame technical necessity, and the other is highly interesting artistic choice. Let's start with the lame technical one, which is money. We have a total budget of 7k euros, which is amazing. We need 60 musicians for 2 performances and each costing 150 euros, and we also need them for 3 rehearsals. So 2 performances and 3 rehearsals. In total, 28,800 euros. Well, we can't afford that, so let's compromise and hire only 20 students. Which leaves us 3,500 for the stage design, so stage and costume, which is plenty, I would say. This is more than I ever had. Now, we play in the 19th century with gorgeous furniture, so... okay. Well, no, we can't afford that, but 2k for 20 costumes means 100 euros per costume, so we can surely have these kinds of costumes, right? I'm not a costume expert, so let's just call Anna, who is in charge for the costumes.
Also, mit unserem Budget geht es auf jeden Fall nicht aus. Wir könnten natürlich was anfertigen lassen, aber kommen wir vielleicht auf ein Kostüm mit unserem Budget.
Das heißt, ein Kostüm würde 2000 Euro kosten.
Es kommt halt darauf an, wie zeitgemäß, welche Materialien wir verwenden.
Oder ausborgen, weil Art for Art sich Kostüme ausleihen.
Kann man schon machen, aber da kommen wir auch auf mindestens 400-500 Euro pro Kostüm.
Yes, it's quite lame. But opera, as you see, is stupidly expensive if you want to do it uncompromised. And big opera houses have way more budget. To give you an idea for real professional theater world expenses, I give you 10 seconds to guess how much this puppet cost.
Ja, hör auf! Ja. Lass den Herzogin! Ja. Du soll den Herzogin lassen jetzt! Lass den jetzt!
Now let's get to the more interesting part, which is the artistic approach. Question 1. What is, in your opinion, the better approach? Approach 1. To preserve the original setting and language that was used to convey a story for the audience 300 years ago, regardless of the impact it has now. Approach 2. To preserve the intention that the composers had for their audience in the 20th century or the 17th century, and to tweak the story, language and setting for the audience in the 21st century to make them have a similar experience. We need to keep in mind that the meaning of life, death and God changed over time. Life expectancy was much lower, infant mortality was much higher, and people truly believed in God. So when a character says, "Yours be the blame, ye gods," this was an OMG, this is blasphemy moment. Question 2. What, in your opinion, makes a king a king? The crown? The throne? Now imagine he has 50 people around and he starts to give orders, but no one reacts and listens to what he says. Suddenly you have a boy in his pyjamas and he commands to dethrone the king, and the entire crowd immediately follows his order. Who, in your opinion, now resembles the real king? The person with the crown on his throne, or the boy? Is it the props or is it the power to move other people that makes a person king? Interesting question and approach, right? When we say the boy is the true king, then now we can make literally anyone king. Doesn't matter if the king is portrayed as a boy, a woman in a blue dress, or a person with a mask. As long as we see power, we see a king. So modern directors use this approach to show the core essence of the piece rather than to satisfy cliché expectations. This freedom, this tool for change, is also very useful to deal with certain scenes that are, politically speaking, really not okay anymore. But there's also another reason directors absolutely need freedom for. The opera culture has changed. Originally, opera was like going to the cinema. You rarely watch the same thing twice. For the majority of the time, the programming of the opera houses only had completely new, composed, never ever heard before operas. The same piece was performed as long as people bought tickets. When the interest faded, the next new opera came, and the next and the next. The opera world currently plays mostly the same pieces over and over again, which is quite ridiculous when we compare it to other music.
Let's just imagine that Bruno Mars decides to drop an album of Elvis covers. Literally, that's it. Like the same backing tracks, the same words, the same dance moves, the same costumes. Nothing is different except it's just Bruno Mars. And then Ed Sheeran does the same thing. And then Justin Bieber. And then Harry Styles. And then John Legend, and then Elton John, and on and on and on and on until the world is just swimming in Elvis covers and dudes wearing white sequin suits.
Esatto. I have seen Le Nozze di Figaro at the University 2019, assisted Le Nozze di Figaro 2020 in Vienna, 2021 in Tokyo, and I directed it myself 2022 in Croatia. And tonight the State Opera of Vienna plays, guess what? You know, there's really a positive side of it. It is such a great music that you can really enjoy it no matter how often you listen to it. It really is that good. But with that, we have somehow lost the classic culture to have new pieces as the main attraction, and now have the modern culture to remake the same pieces over and over again. And for me this was such an interesting revelation, because to play the same known old pieces again and again is modern opera culture. It wasn't a thing in times of Handel, Mozart and Puccini. Now imagine 10 opera houses in, let's say, Germany announcing their program for the upcoming season, and all of them are doing Le Nozze di Figaro as a new production. Figaro, 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 Figaro. Each opera house hires super creative, innovative, modern directors, and they all are expected to direct this wonderful piece by Mozart in a completely new way to show that this piece is still very relevant to the modern day. Now guess what's going to happen? In Figaro, it's about the fake love. That's why I decided to have a porn scene and every character is naked. This proves the actuality of this piece. Is this coffee with milk? In Figaro, it's about the love which makes people crazy. This is why I made the setting to a psychiatry. And this proves the actuality of this piece. It's about the white, old, egoistic man in power. That's why I made this white, immovable, huge box to demonstrate the livelessness. And this proves that... Do you see? It's inevitable.
That is the sound of inevitability.
So let's get back to the Fledermaus. We had the financial, boring technical necessity to have a modern setting, but we've learned now that it's still possible to convey the story if we stop following our approach to cliché. So I focused on 3 simple things, which are, in my opinion, the craft of directing. Clear storytelling. Make the text and the storytelling as clear and simple as possible. The story of Die Fledermaus isn't the simplest to convey, so we cut away the unnecessary parts and added certain things, for example, the background story in the overture. Make characters as relatable as possible. Real humans have secrets, they have positive and negative sides. Make them sympathetic to the audience. Maximize the live effect. As I was a singer myself, I know for a fact that the most fun place to be during a performance is by far on the stage. You can hear and feel the vocal power of the singers when you are right next to them, and it is so much more exciting than to watch them act from the auditorium with a huge orchestra pit in between. That's why I decided for a second act to have the entire audience come onto the stage. So after 1 month of directing, the date of the performances came, and I again invited my best friends, and I was quite afraid because I didn't want them to leave again during the break. But this time they stayed. They didn't mind the modern setting at all, and they said they would come again and take their friends with them. And let me show you one of my most favorite moments.
Wenn ihr kommt, da werde ich ihm, da werde ich, da werde ich ihm, da werde ich.
This reaction by the audience proves that they are 100% engaged and they care deeply about what happens to the character. If you're interested, you can watch the entire show of Die Fledermaus on my channel. Let us talk about the directors who do stuff like this.
In the middle of ballet music in the 3rd act, they moved huge video walls on stage, and I think that was the size of the whole stage, more or less. And they started to project group gay porn for at least 20 minutes. And the very last scene had some dirt on it. Well, I hope it was dirt. So after 20 minutes of that, 10-15% of the audience left. I'm really not against sex scenes on stage if it makes sense, but there was no obvious reason. At least I didn't get it.
I found the article he was talking about, and this is what it says. The director claims that his decision not to tell the actual story has profound philosophical grounds. He is as unable to articulate them as he is to stage this opera.
Bruh.
Yes, there are directors who don't care at all about storytelling, which is also a possible way to direct, but it's highly risky. I think that if you have already directed 100 operas and with a crazy amount of skill and innovative ideas, maybe you can pull it off. And it also depends on the piece. This director risked it and apparently failed. And if you consider the amount of money and energy you pour into an opera production, and you make thousands of people pay hundreds of euros, yeah, what for?
They think money go on tree.
But you know, the difficult thing is this. You can't know for certain if a production will be good or bad until the day of the premiere. And opera houses, they wouldn't return the money and say, sorry, we just made art you won't understand and appreciate. They wouldn't. Of course they won't. And then they say in the interviews, this is such a fantastic, fabulous production. This is contemporary, modern, high art, which is meant to disturb you. Good, disturbing art doesn't send 10% of the audience away. Schindler's List, for example. That is a truly disturbing film, and we all appreciate that it made us aware of what narcissism is capable of. And it is our duty as artists to present important stories in a way that it hits the audience in the guts to remember them with emotions. If I think I have to make disturbing art, I would do that to help people become a better person, not to send them away from the theater. Good children's books, for example, are written in a way that is both entertaining for the children and highly educational for parents. And the same is applicable for directing. Clear storytelling, and sometimes you can use indescribable art to keep it spicy. I also directed one moment in the Fledermaus, which is, in my opinion, spicy. But I used the chili as a spice and not as a main dish. This is the difference. Question 3, and final question. How do you become an opera director? Study directing? Assist directors? Not really necessary. The quickest way is to win a directing competition. But if you propose a Figaro which looks like this, without any major changes in the story, the chance for you to win is 0. No chance whatsoever, really. 0. People who make disturbing art have better chances of winning these competitions. But sometimes you just have to be famous. Christoph Waltz is directing Fidelio. Woody Allen directs his first opera and he says in an interview, I have no idea what I am doing, but incompetence has never prevented me from plunging in with enthusiasm. Okay, just imagine FC Barcelona hiring LeBron James as their new football coach for the upcoming season, or the NASA hiring Uncle Roger as an astronaut, or your hospital hiring Justin Bieber as a surgeon, because they are all famous and they all can say, I have no idea what I am doing, but incompetence, you get the picture. These are extreme examples, but the opera world currently has a lot of directors who didn't study or assist before, which is absolutely fine, and this is the amazing freedom that we have for art nowadays. The only problem is that opera directing is a very delicate thing. It's completely different than film directing, theater directing, or even musical directing, even though you'd think it's the same thing. But it's not. Opera singers have to sing through an orchestra containing up to 120 musicians without the help of microphones. And as a director, you need to know where the vocally and musically difficult parts are. So what I enjoy about my job is taking everything into consideration and trying to find creative ideas to fit everything together, to have the best storytelling, rather than bluntly showing profound art, which sometimes ends up as a porn scene ending with dirt. But you know, there are other countries in which dictators only allow art to nurture their propaganda and for self-glorification. So I'd rather have Berlioz music and projected porn that has nothing to do with the story than that. Doesn't mean you need to like it and buy tickets for 200 euros. I mean, you could, but I would rather have a nice weekend trip. But in all seriousness, even though there are directors who seem to make pieces worse than if directed in an original way, art is always something that was evolving throughout every generation, and we should keep allowing trial and error. The only thing that concerns me is that the opera world currently seems to be kind of stuck with the same pieces that we do over and over again. So let us all gain curiosity for new, unknown operas. I believe that if the demand is there, the opera houses will gladly take new composed pieces into their repertoire, as this was their original and true form. So please write your favorite new operas in the comments if you have any. I want to end this video with what I think is the direction I want to go and maybe resonate with yours. Right, Punchy? So after one of my performances, which I directed after the second show of Die Fledermaus, people came to me to congratulate, and then a woman came and she said, "Thank you. My someone close to me passed away, and this was the first time I could smile and laugh again. And I was just... So she hugged me and I hugged her, and then she went. And yes, this is why I direct. Thank you so much for sticking until the end. I sincerely hope that you could take something from this video. And if you have any questions or want to give your opinions, please write them in the comments. I will read each and every one of them. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. If you have any wishes for videos about certain topics, please tell me. You can also find me on Instagram. Thanks again, and see you next time.